Japan, the island where nature whispers. Japan keeps its soul in a mountain, a forest, a park, and a bowl. A single peak has been growing for over 2 million years, and it still isn't finished. Bamboo on the edge of Kyoto moves differently than any forest you've walked through. In one city, animals have been protected as divine messengers for more than 1,000 years. And a simple bowl of noodles carries a story of earthquakes, reinvention, and an art form born from what people once threw away. Mount Fuji, the mountain that watches. Mount Fuji rises 12,388 feet just 60 miles from Tokyo. On clear days you can see it from the city, a white cone floating above the skyline, and it looks closer than it is. The mountain you're looking at is not one volcano. It's 3 volcanoes stacked on top of each other, and the whole structure has grown for more than 2.5 million years. At the bottom sits Komatake, the oldest layer. Above that rests Ko-Fuji, or Old Fuji, which erupted about 100,000 years ago. And on top of both of them sits Shin-Fuji, New Fuji, the peak that gives the mountain its near-perfect cone. Each eruption poured lava and ash over the one before it, and over millions of years that layering built the shape that painters have spent lifetimes trying to capture. The last time Fuji erupted was in 1707, and that eruption didn't come from nowhere. 49 days earlier, a massive earthquake tore through the region. When the volcano finally blew, ash fell so thick that it darkened the midday sky as far away as Edo, which you now know as Tokyo. Temples and homes near the mountain disappeared under the ash. Since then Fuji has slept, but geologists still classify it as active, and they watch it around the clock. People have not stayed away because of the danger. They've stayed close because the mountain is sacred. In Shinto tradition, climbing Fuji has been an act of devotion for centuries. Today hundreds of thousands of people still make the climb each summer, and many start at night so they can stand at the summit when the sun rises. They want to see the first light hit a mountain that's stood there since before humans existed. In 2013, UNESCO named the area a World Heritage Site, not just for the geology, but for what the mountain has meant to the people who live beneath it. The artist Hokusai spent decades creating his 36 views of Mount Fuji, and he was still trying to get it right. That's what happens when nature builds something over 2 million years. It gives you a subject you can never fully capture. Arashiyama, the Green Cathedral. If Mount Fuji is Japan's exclamation point, the bamboo forest in Arashiyama is its whisper. The grove sits on the western edge of Kyoto, and when you walk into it, the world changes. The bamboo shoots upward in tight rows, and the canopy blocks most of the sky. The light that gets through falls in thin green lines that move when the wind shifts. The wind itself sounds different here. It brushes against the hollow stalks and creates a low, knocking rhythm that you won't hear in any other forest on earth. Local people have compared it to woodblocks or distant drums, but it sounds like itself, and nothing else. Arashiyama is more than bamboo. Historic temples sit at the edges of the grove, and they've been there for centuries, watching the same green light filter through the same tall stalks. The forest doesn't change quickly, and that's the point. In a country that moves as fast as Japan does, this grove still grows at the speed of bamboo, slow and steady, and impossible to rush. Nara, the park where deer bow. There's one place in Japan where the animals don't run from you. They walk toward you. Nara Park is home to about 1,300 sika deer, and they've been living in this area for over 1,300 years. Fukushima University ran DNA tests on these deer, and they proved that the animals around Keisubataisha Shrine split from their ancestral group between the years 592 and 710. They've maintained a unique genetic line ever since, which means the deer you see today are direct descendants of the animals that walked these paths over 1,000 years ago. The reason they survived when so many other deer populations disappeared is simple. The people here decided they were sacred. According to legend, the god Takemai Kazuchi no Mikoto rode into Nara on a white deer, and from that moment these animals became divine messengers of the shrine. Keisuga Shrine itself was founded in 768, and since then the deer were protected as living cultural assets. The bowing you see isn't a trick taught by trainers. It's a behavior the deer learned over centuries of human interaction. When they lower their heads, they're usually asking for food, and visitors feed them special biscuits made from wheat flour and rice bran. Those biscuits date back to the early Edo period, which began in 1603. So when you hold one out and a deer bows to you, you're taking part in a conversation that's gone on for over 400 years. Rokuan, a protection facility in the park, cares for about 300 sick or injured deer each year. That's how seriously Nara takes its promise to these animals. Ramen, the bowl that tells a story. Japan protects its animals and its forests. But it also turns simple ingredients into something that takes a lifetime to master. Ramen didn't start in Japan the way you know it today. Chinese-style noodles arrived during the Muromachi period, made with a baking soda solution that gave them their color and chew. The first Japanese version, called Nankin Soba, appeared in 1859 in restaurants that only the wealthy could afford. Decades passed before ordinary people could afford it. But the real story of how ramen became Japanese starts with a disaster. On September 1, 1923, the Great Kanto earthquake destroyed Tokyo and the surrounding coast, and most of the country's ramen chefs lived right there in the capital. When the city fell, they lost their jobs and their shops, and they scattered. Some moved to the Kansai region. Others traveled to Hokkaido or Kyushu. Wherever they landed, they rebuilt their broth with whatever ingredients were local, and that's how Japan got its regional ramen styles. One disaster created an entire country's worth of flavors. After World War II, urban planners forced street stalls into designated areas, and one street in Sapporo became almost entirely ramen shops. Around 1954, a shop owner named Morito Omiya started mixing miso into his broth because local salarymen missed their mother's miso soup. He spent 5 years perfecting it, and by 1960 miso ramen was spreading across the nation. In 1958, Momofuku Ando invented instant ramen in his garden shed. He got the idea from watching his wife make tempura, and he preserved noodles by frying them to remove moisture. That led to cup noodle in 1971, and today the world consumes 100 billion servings of instant ramen every year. But the handmade version never disappeared. Japanese soba noodles Tsuta became the first ramen shop to earn a Michelin star, proving what many already knew. Ramen isn't fast food. It's a craft. Closing. Japan doesn't shout for your attention. It waits, quietly, for you to notice. The mountain, the forest, the deer, and the bowl all share one thing. That thing is time? They were built slowly, and they reward slow attention. If you want more journeys to places that help you breathe again, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.